So Keyano College is in, but the Edmonton Journal, they seem sort of mad about it. Let me read a little more. A Northern Alberta college has become the first post-secondary institution to officially adopt controversial freedom of speech rules ahead of an approaching deadline set out by the provincial government. Hang on. Controversial? Says who? Is it controversial to support free speech on a university campus? That's controversial? Not that censorship has become the norm. I love that word, controversial. It really means nothing, does it? Other than a reporter is trying to be negative but can't really make the case. Ooh, controversial. It's like a generic warning, but the kind of warning that says, I can't really articulate the problem, but just trust us, it's controversial. Now, once upon a time, you could actually trust the Edmonton Journal. About 80 years ago, they won a Pulitzer Prize for standing up. It's right there in their lobby, by the way, it's amazing. Standing up to Bill Aberhart, the Premier of Alberta, who passed a series of laws, can you believe it, that allowed the government to force newspapers to print government propaganda on their editorial page. See, if Aberhart had been smart about it, he wouldn't have used the stick to force them to write his editorials. He'd have used a carrot, like Justin Trudeau. He'd have offered the Edmonton Journal its cut of a $600 million bailout, or whatever the equivalent would have been in 1938 dollars. And they would have censored themselves willingly for him. Anyways, that was then, this is now. Let me read from the Journal today. Student groups had voiced concerns that schools weren't prepared. In May, the United Conservative Party announced its intention to follow in Ontario's footsteps by introducing the principles developed by the University of Chicago in 2014. They allow speakers on campuses to share their views no matter how unwelcome, disagreeable, or even deeply offensive they may be. They have been criticized by academics as benefiting more extreme and conservative speakers. So did you see that first part there? Schools aren't prepared for free speech? What does that even mean? I think that means they need free speech good and hard then. If they're not prepared for it, they need it good and hard. What about the part about benefiting extreme and conservative speakers? Well, you know, on that last point, I suppose they're right. Since the majority of banned groups these days are conservative. I mentioned the pro-life clubs earlier, but if you read the Chicago Principles, which I doubt the Edmonton Journal has, even though it's only 2.5 pages, the first example the Chicago Principles cite is actually a communist, a leftist. Let me read. A student organization invited William Z. Foster, the Communist Party's candidate for president, to lecture on campus. This triggered a storm of protests from critics both on and off campus. To those who condemned the university for allowing the event, President Robert M. Hutchins responded that, quote, our students should have freedom to discuss any problem that presents itself. He insisted that the cure for ideas we oppose lies through open discussion rather than through inhibition. On a later occasion, Hutchins added that free inquiry is indispensable to the good life. that universities exist for the sake of such inquiry, and that without it they cease to be universities. So yeah, I guess to most academics and most journalists, when a leftist is barred from campus, that's censorship. But when a conservative is banned, that's just good hygiene. Let me quote you from the Keyano College statement itself. It's in point form. There's a little bit of wiggle room in it. We'll see how it's implemented. But I like these parts here. Let me read a few. Community members have the right to criticize and question other views expressed on campus, but cannot obstruct or interfere with others' freedom of speech. And institutions should not attempt to shield students from ideas or opinions they disagree with or find offensive. Mutual respect and civility are valued, but do not constitute sufficient justification to limit free speech. I like it. I like it. I can hear the echoes of the Chicago Principles in there, and I can see why leftists, Antifa thugs, and tattletale hall monitors, snitch-style journalists like BuzzFeed News would hate it. I mean, the whole point of doxing people is to shut them down, deplatform them, to ban them. And Keyano College is saying in advance that they're not going to accept that kind of behavior. That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day, I do a video monologue, and then I interview an interesting guest, and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.